There is one retirement mistake that quietly costs thousands of Americans money every single year. And what makes it so surprising is that most people never realize they are making it. It is not investing in the wrong stock. It is not retiring too early. It is not even failing to save enough money. The mistake is assuming that the income you expect to receive in retirement is already set in stone. Most people believe the number is fixed, locked in, and impossible to improve. But what if I told you there is one simple review that takes less than 10 minutes and has helped countless retirees discover that they may be entitled to more money than they thought? Stay with me, because what I am about to share could affect every dollar you receive for the rest of your retirement. My name is Dalio, and throughout my career I have spent decades studying how financial systems work. One thing I have learned is that large systems are never perfect. Governments make mistakes, companies make mistakes, banks make mistakes, and whenever a system processes millions of records over many decades, errors become unavoidable. The real question is not whether mistakes exist. The real question is whether one of those mistakes is affecting you right now without you knowing it. And for many retirees, the answer is yes. Most people spend 40 or 50 years working, paying taxes, and contributing to programs designed to support them later in life. They assume that every paycheck was reported correctly, every record was stored accurately, and every dollar they earned was counted. But very few people ever stop to verify that assumption. They trust the system completely. They never look behind the curtain. They never examine the actual numbers being used to calculate their future income. And that is where the problem begins. There is one document that contains information more valuable than most people realize. It is a document that many Americans can access online in just a few minutes. Inside, it is a complete history of earnings reported throughout their working life. Every year they worked, every year they contributed, every year that helped determine their future benefits. Yet despite its importance, millions of people have never looked at it. Not once. They have never opened it. They have never reviewed it. They have never checked whether the information inside is accurate. Now here is the part that matters most. Simply opening this document does not increase your retirement income. The opportunity comes from knowing exactly what to look for once you have it in front of you, because hidden inside those records are mistakes that often go unnoticed for decades. A missing year, an incorrect earnings amount, a reporting error that occurred so long ago nobody remembers it happened. These mistakes may seem small, but when they become part of a retirement calculation, they can reduce monthly income for years and sometimes for decades. Think about this for a moment. Imagine you worked hard during one of your highest earning years. You showed up every day. You earned good money. You paid taxes. But for some reason, the amount recorded in the system is far lower than what you actually earned. That lower number becomes part of the formula used to determine your retirement benefit. The result is simple. Your monthly payment may be smaller than it should be, not because you failed to earn it, not because you do not qualify, simply because a number in a record does not accurately reflect reality. What makes this especially important today is the economic environment retirees are facing. Inflation has increased the cost of groceries. Healthcare expenses continue rising. Insurance premiums seem to climb every year. Housing costs remain elevated. Millions of retirees are searching for ways to stretch every dollar further. They are clipping coupons, reducing expenses, and carefully managing budgets. Yet some of them may have additional money available without changing their lifestyle at all. The challenge is knowing where to look. Let me tell you about a man I will call Robert. Robert spent most of his career working for small businesses. He never thought much about payroll records because he assumed everything was handled correctly. A few years before retirement, he decided to review his earnings history. As he went through the numbers, something caught his attention. Several years showed earnings that were significantly lower than what he remembered making. At first he assumed his memory was wrong, but after reviewing old tax records, he realized the mistake was not his. The records had been reported incorrectly. After submitting the proper documentation and having the record corrected, his future retirement income increased substantially. The money had always belonged to him. He simply never knew it was missing. Stories like Robert's are more common than most people realize. Large systems process enormous amounts of information. Sometimes employers make reporting errors. Sometimes paperwork gets lost. Sometimes information is entered incorrectly. Most mistakes are completely unintentional, but the impact can still be significant, and unless someone takes the time to review the records, those mistakes often remain hidden forever. There is another group that should pay particularly close attention: anyone who was self-employed during part of their career. Self-employment creates additional complexity because income reporting depends heavily on tax filings and documentation. If there was ever a reporting issue, a filing problem, or an administrative error, it may affect the earnings history being used today. That does not mean there is definitely a problem. It simply means the record deserves a careful review. Women who changed their names after marriage or divorce should also pay close attention. Throughout history, name changes have occasionally created complications in large record-keeping systems. Earnings reported under one name may not always connect perfectly with records maintained under another. Again, this does not happen to everyone, but when it does happen, the financial consequences can be meaningful. A few minutes spent reviewing records could potentially uncover issues that have remained hidden for years. Now I want to explain something that surprises many people. Retirement benefit calculations are heavily influenced by earnings history. This means that a single incorrect year can have effects that extend throughout retirement. Most people think one small error cannot matter very much, but retirement is measured in years, not months. Even a modest increase in monthly income can translate into thousands of additional dollars over the course of a long retirement. That is why reviewing these records can be one of the highest value financial tasks a retiree performs. There is also another opportunity many people overlook completely. Some individuals have years showing little or no reported earnings. In certain cases, those years are accurate. Perhaps they took time away from work. Perhaps they returned to school. Perhaps they cared for family members. But in other cases, those years may contain missing or incomplete information. If a year that should contain earnings appears as zero, that can influence future benefit calculations. Identifying and correcting those situations can sometimes make a meaningful difference. The broader lesson here goes beyond retirement benefits. One of the most important principles in finance is verification. Successful investors verify information. Successful businesses verify information. Successful retirees should do the same. Never assume that because something appears on an official document it must automatically be correct. Verify it, review it, understand it. The people who take ownership of their financial information often discover opportunities that others miss entirely. So, what should you do? First, access your earnings history through the appropriate government account. Once you have it open, review every year carefully. Compare the figures against old tax returns, W-2 forms, pay stubs, or any records you still have available. Pay special attention to years when you changed jobs, worked for small businesses, were self-employed, or experienced major life changes. Those periods often deserve the closest review. Second, look for anything unusual. Years that seem too low. Years that appear to be missing. Years that do not match your memory or documentation. You are not trying to prove an error immediately. You are simply identifying anything that deserves further investigation. Sometimes the explanation is simple. Other times the discovery can be financially significant. Third, if you find a discrepancy, gather supporting documentation. Tax returns, W-2 forms, employment records, and payroll information can all help establish what actually occurred. The stronger the documentation, the easier it becomes to correct legitimate errors. Many people give up before taking this step because they assume the process will be difficult, but the potential reward often makes the effort worthwhile. Finally, remember that retirement planning is not just about saving money. It is also about making sure you receive every dollar you have already earned. Too many people spend decades building their future income only to assume the final calculation automatically correct. Sometimes it is, sometimes it is not. The only way to know is to check. At a time when economic uncertainty continues to dominate headlines, this is one financial task completely within your control. You do not need to predict the stock market. You do not need to forecast interest rates. You do not need to guess what inflation will do next year. You simply need to review information that belongs to you and verify that it accurately reflects your working life. The truth is simple. Millions of Americans worked hard for decades, contributed to the system, and earned every dollar of their future benefits. They deserve confidence that those benefits are being calculated correctly, and sometimes all it takes to uncover a hidden opportunity is spending a few minutes looking at a document most people never bother to open. The difference between the income you expect and the income you deserve could be hiding in a record you have not reviewed yet. That is why I encourage every retiree and every future retiree to make this a priority, because when it comes to retirement income, assumptions can be expensive, but verification can be incredibly valuable.